Well, tonight was a huge wake-up call for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you know what? Thank God for that, because the Leafs coming into Tampa, you're playing against the Tampa Bay Lightning, whom of course still have, well, their players are still intact. You got fan favorite players like Oliver uh, Bjorkstrad, Oliver Bjorkstrad, Victor Hedman, Nikita Kucherov, but you also got Andrei Vasilevsky, Anthony Sorelli, and all those guys. And you're playing against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and you did the deed as the Leafs win 4-3 in overtime over the Tampa Bay Lightning in the final game of the Battle of Blue and White. And you know what? That was one hell of a game from the start to the end. A very, very good game. So, coming into the last game, last night against the Panthers, that game was freaking ridiculous because I thought the golden opportunity to clinch home ice advantage, and we didn't do it as we let the Florida Frauds end their losing streak instead of us clinching the home ice. And now we played against Tampa, who's a better Florida team that is not the Florida Panthers, thank God. But the officiating kind of sucked, but we still won. But let's get to this game because this game was a freaking, oh man, what a fun game to watch. First period of the game, well, technically it was a close contested game. Sure, of course, Leafs had their chances and the Lightning had their chances too, but guess who actually scores first? It was none other than the Toronto Maple Leafs as Austin Matthews gives the puck to Mitch Marner, and Mitch Marner scores, and it's 1-0 Leafs. The Leafs strike first in Tampa Bay to kick off the final game of the Battle of Blue and White. And then not long after, Nikita Kucherov thought he had the puck, but he turns it over to Matthews, and then he passes over to Matthew Knies, and it is 2-0 Leafs. All right, now we're getting somewhere. All right, it's 2-0 Leafs by the killer Matthew Knies, who literally owns Tampa Bay. And I thought it was gonna be 3-0. I thought, John Tavares, yeah, he tripped the guy. I thought he just hooked, but the Leafs were able to. I thought John Tavares was gonna make it 3-0, but no. Instead, it's just, oh boy, Andrei Vasilevsky, you lucky son of a gun. He just stopped the puck, and it's actually not close. And I thought, okay, going into the first period, can we just end the first period with style? End the first period with the 2-0 lead. Nope. The Leafs were sloppy defensively, and Nick Perbex scores to put the Lightning on the board. It is 2-1 Leafs. Hell no. At the end of the first period, it's 2-1 Leafs. Hell no. It had to be done anyway. Second period, we had our scoring chances, just couldn't put in the back of the net of Andrei Vasilevsky. Same with the Lightning. Stoli was dialed in, and he prevented any hole for the Lightning until at 19:01, around 59 seconds left to go in the second period, Scott Laughton gets called for interference, and I'm like, damn, Butcher, you cannot make this up. And of course, it's 2-1 Leafs after the second period. Oh my God, are you kidding me? We're doing history, but for the wrong reasons, and Scott Laughton might be the worst player that the Leafs ever got in the trade deadline. After trading away Nikita Gabrinkin to the Propellers for Scott Laughton. Holy crap, we did Nikita bad. No, not Kucherov. Nikita Gabrinkin. Man, we did that man pretty badly, dude. Holy shit. I won't lie. That sucked. And he gets called for interference. Okay, so we go into the second period with a penalty kill to do. We have to kill off that penalty, Jesus. And then, of course, seconds to start the third period. I think it was like 10 or 15 seconds. Oh my God. Oliver Bjorkstrad ties the game up at 2, and I'm like thinking, well, there goes that 2-0 lead. Or for crying out loud, bro. Up 2-0, and the Lightning would just want to come back, and they tie the game up. Luckily, the Leafs get a power play, a 4-minute double minor on the Lightning, and Matthew Knies scores, and it's 3-2 Leafs. He scores again. All right, let's do this. And this is where everything goes down in a heap. You see the penalties right here? Look at the third period penalties for the Toronto Maple Leafs and Tampa Bay Lightning. Holy crap, look at that. That is by far absurd. I've never seen that much penalties in the third period of the Toronto of the game. I've never seen this before. And of course, to add further insult, oh my god. I thought we were gonna have a 5-on. I thought we were gonna have some shot. I thought it was gonna be 4-on-3. Nope, we just bad shit happens. And of course, Leafs able to kill off a penalty. Okay, good stuff. I think Max Domi got called for I think it was a freaking you-know-what. Max Domi for tripping. And of course, even more absurd happens. Even Bobby McMahon gets called for 5 minutes for fighting. And a cross-check on freaking Bobby McMahon. Are you kidding me? It's like, I've seen way worse than this. You remember the time when I think it was David Camp or Alexander Kerfoot? I think he just high stick Cal foot, and that was a phantom high stick. You clearly don't know because that's not high stick, and they just called a cross check. I mean, terrible bad shot right there, and Victor Hedman ties the game up at 3. Oh my God, we took the lead. They just tie the game up. It's literally stealing candy from a baby, and it's not even close. So now we go into overtime. At least we were able to do something here in the third period. We go to overtime. Luckily, we were able to stop. We had the chance to take the lead in the third period to put that nail in the just put that dagger in the heart, but we can't. So now we go into overtime. Well, we had some chances. Anthony Storlars was dialed in overtime, able to stop some shit, able to stuff whatever. He was able to do damage. He was able to stop every shot from Tampa, even when we needed the most. Nothing from Braden Point, nothing from Nikita Kucherov, nothing from them. Victor Hedman, not really. Even though, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson went on a breakaway and he couldn't even shoot. He couldn't even score the game winner. That could have been really good. And of course, and the fun part is, yep, Vasilevsky was able to make the one save, but guess who scores the hat trick and says good night to Tampa Bay? It was the killer, Matthew Knies, with the hat trick, and that puts the game, and that's the end of the game. Big win for the Toronto Maple Leafs. What a game for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and what a fun game to watch, especially in the final game of the Battle of Blue and White. I mean, there was a lot of good positives here. We got Anthony Storlars being dialed in, ready to do some damage. He was able to stop some pucks. He was able to stop. Everybody in overtime, especially Victor Hedman and the crew. Nick, I think, and Matthew Knies with the hat trick, bullseye. That's just great. But what I really didn't like was Scott Lockton interfering with the Lightning player. I'm like, he cut me some slack. I thought it was going to be interference on Tampa. No, it's just going to be called on us. And that is the silliest thing in history to call a penalty. And the penalty for the Toronto Maple Leafs and Tampa Bay Lightning is just absurd. You get phantom calls, but you get ride calls. I mean, okay, yeah, even the fight, that was alright. But the rough on Matthew Knies, you could just go by, really. So the Leafs split the Florida trip with a 1-1 record in Florida, and they go home happy with 2 points. Would like it 3 or 4, but it don't matter. Wins the win for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and thank God for that. So at least we didn't. The officiating was questionable. It was pretty bad, but a win is a win for the Leafs. I don't care. But anyways, I think that's it for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The next game for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they take on the Montreal Canadiens, whom, of course, is having a hell of a season, man. They're still fighting for the playoffs. They're in the second spot for wild card in the Eastern Conference. Do I want Montreal in the playoffs? Yeah, I've said it before when they got Patrick Laine. So there's a chance the Habs can make the playoffs as a wild card team. I said it once and I'll say it before. I said it once. I'll say it again. The Montreal Canadiens will make the playoffs as a wild card team, and I wonder if they can do some damage in the playoffs, which I think they have a chance. But I think that's it for me to say for tonight's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning in the final game of the Battle of Blue and White. Let's go, Leafs! Yeah!